Hello students, welcome to my channel Biology Foundation. This is part 2 of Unit 3 Structure and Function of Plants. So in the last class or in the last video we discussed in detail about root system. Root system constitutes the part of the plant which is found in the soil or underground, and we have also seen that root system comprises of primary root, secondary root, and root hairs. We also discussed that roots can be classified into true roots and adventitious roots. What are true roots? These roots develop from the radicle in an embryo, whereas adventitious roots can develop either from the stems or leaves, right? And primary root arises from it is like, for example, if you consider this is the stem in a plant, the roots that arise directly from sorry, I'm sorry, the roots that directly arise from the base of the stem, they are primary roots. Now, the roots which arise from these primary roots, they are said to be secondary roots. Okay. And at the ends of primary and secondary roots, we have small hair like structures that develop. They are said to be root hairs. Okay. Root hairs play a very important role in efficient absorption of water and minerals. And we discussed even the function. What is the primary function of root? It helps in proper absorption of water and minerals, right? And roots play a very important role in fixation of the plant to the soil. Roots help in preventing soil erosion. That means when there is heavy wind, then there are chances that the top layer, fertile layer of soil can be carried away by wind. But when there are plants present, the roots hold these soil particles very tightly or very firmly, as a result of which the soil particles cannot be carried away by wind. So it prevents soil erosion. But apart from the normal primary functions that we see in a root, we have also seen secondary functions. That is, in some plants, modification of roots is seen where roots can store food, right? Or roots play an important role in providing mechanical support, storage of food. Such roots are called tuberous roots, if you remember. And we discussed in some members, the roots provide mechanical support. They are called as prop roots or stilt roots. Prop roots are seen in banyan, and stilt roots are found in sugarcane, maize, right? And in some members, the roots grow they grow vertically upwards, which is seen in mangroves. Okay, such roots are called pneumatophores or breathing roots. Right? These roots have pores that help them to breathe um, in marshy areas, in waterlogged conditions. We have also seen feeder roots where in money plant, the roots help in proper or efficient nutrient absorption. So that's all about root system. Okay. So in today's class or video, let's talk about shoot system. So basically, shoot system, it is the portion of the plant which is found above the ground or above the soil. Okay, the portion of the plant which is found above the ground. And shoot system comprises of stems, leaves, flowers, and fruits. So basically, this is your root system comprising of primary roots, secondary root, and root hairs. And then you have the shoot system. Okay, the shoot system comprises of stems, leaves, flowers, fruits, buds, etc. Okay, shoot system is that portion of the plant which is present above the ground. Okay, now if you observe this plant carefully, the point where leaves arise, okay, on the stem, that portion on the stem from which the leaves arise is said to be a node. Okay, what is a node? It is that point or place or region on the stem from which leaves arise. Can you see? This is a node. Sorry, this is a node. Here again you have a node portion wherever leaves arise. That regions of the stem are called nodes. And space between or region between two nodes is called as internode. Okay, I'll draw another image here. Let's assume another diagram or picture. You have primary roots, secondary roots developing. Okay, and from the secondary roots, you can see terminally small root hairs. Okay, this is all root system. Now, here you can see leaves. Now, this portion on the stem from where leaves arise, they are said to be nodes. Even this is a node. Okay, now the region between two nodes is called as internode. Okay, and stem also bears buds. Okay, I told the shoot system comprises of stems, leaves, flowers, fruits, and even buds. Now the position of buds can be either terminal, that means if this is a plant, a bud can be present sideways, that means it can be laterally present, or it can be present at the tip of the stem. So buds which are present at the tip of the stem, they are said to be terminal buds or apical buds. Okay, these apical buds are present at the tip of the stem. Okay, they mainly help in increasing the length of the plant. They play a major role in increasing the height of the plant. The apical buds or the terminal buds, as they grow, they see that the main stem is growing in its height and the plant looks taller. Okay, now coming to the lateral bud or lateral buds, or they are also called as axillary buds. Okay, please understand the stem, the shoot system comprises of stems, leaves, fruits, flowers, and buds. Now, the buds which are present on the stem, they are of two types, apical buds or lateral buds. Apical buds, as the name suggests, they are present at the tips or the terminal positions of the stem. And these apical buds, what is the main function of the apical buds? They help in increasing the height of the plant. As these apical buds grow, they help in increasing the height of the main stem. And apical buds are also called terminal buds. And other type of buds that you observe are lateral buds. These grow sideways, okay, at the sides of the stem. Lateral buds are also called axillary buds. Okay, and and these axillary buds, they later develop into side branches or lateral branches. So apical bud is responsible for increasing the height of the plant, where lateral buds help in increasing branches in a plant. Okay, apart from terminal bud and lateral bud, you also find flowering buds. Here, can you see flowering buds? Okay, this is tomato plant. So these are the flowers. Now we have lateral buds seen in the tomato plants. These lateral, sorry, flowering buds later give rise to flowers. Okay. Maybe when you were in your fourth or fifth grade, you studied that bud gives rise to a flower. But usually in a plant, you find three types of buds. First is the apical bud or the terminal bud, which helps in increasing the length of the plant, overall height of the plant. Lateral buds or axillary buds, they give rise to branches, lateral branches or side branches. Flowering buds, they give rise to the flowers, okay, which are the reproductive organs in a plant. So the shoot system mainly comprises of stems, leaves, flowers, fruits, and buds. Okay. So basically, if you see the stem, in different plants or in different types of plants, the stem is different. Like, for example, if you consider herbs, in herbs, we see that the stem is green, weak, right? And it's soft. Whereas if you see in climbers or creepers, stem is very thin and it's weak. Usually, in a plant, the stem actually provides support. Whereas in climbers and creepers, the stem is very thin. So that's the reason these plants depend or take support of other plants. Okay, as the stem is very thin and weak. If you see bamboo, here the stem is hollow, right? In shrubs, how is the stem? It is woody. Can you see the brown stem? Unlike in herbs, you have green stem. Here you can see the brown, woody stem. Okay, it's hard, quite hard, hard and woody. Okay, In trees, usually in tree, we all know that you have main stem, and from the main stem you have branches, right? Now this main stem in a tree is called as trunk. Okay, the main stem in a tree is called trunk. So basically, the shoot or the stem is of different compositions in different plants. If you see herbs, the stem is green, it's quite soft, whereas in shrubs, it's woody and hard. In trees, the stem is of uh, more width and it is called as trunk. Okay, whereas in climbers or creepers, the stem is very weak and thin, and in these plants, in climbers and creepers, they require support of other plants. As the stem is quite weak, they depend on other plants for support. We'll understand the modifications of the stem later. Okay, and in bamboo, the stem is quite hollow. Why am I trying to talk about all this? Though the function of the stem might be same in all plants, but still there is some variation seen. Just like we have talked yesterday about roots, not all plants have same types of roots. If we see the monocots, they have fibrous root system. Dicots have taproot system, right? But we know that roots perform same function, whether it is fibrous or taproot system. Roots help in absorption, efficient absorption of water and minerals from the soil. They help in proper fixation of the plant in the soil. In the same way, though the stems are quite different in different plants, they might be woody, they might be soft, they might be uh, very weak in some plants, or they might be of greater width as seen in large trees, but the function of the stem remains the same. We'll talk about the function now. Okay, what are the functions, main primary functions of a stem? It helps in transport of water to various parts of the plant. We all know that from the soil, water is taken up by the roots, right? So, water is present in the roots. Now, from the roots, the water must reach to various parts in the plant. It must reach to the leaves, it must reach to the branches, to the fruits, flowers, and buds. So, who is helping in this transport or conduction of water? Okay, conduction or transport of water. Stem plays an important role in the transport of water to various parts of the plant. Okay, not only transport of water, even the food that is synthesized in the leaf. We know that plants are autotrophs. If you recollect the first unit, living and non-living organisms or life on earth, we talk that plants are autotrophs, green plants, because they can prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis, right? Now basically this food is synthesized in the leaves. The food which is synthesized in the leaves must be transported to the stems, branches, roots. So, who is playing a major role in this transportation? Again, stems. Okay. In any plant, whether it is a tall tree or whether it is a small herb, the function of the stem remains the same. That is, it basically plays a major function or major role in transportation of water from the roots to various parts of the plant, or transport of food from the leaves to various parts of the plant. Okay, so that's the second function of stem. Thirdly, stem is the structure that bears leaves, flowers, and fruits, right? If you see this uh, plant here, you can see that in this diagram, if you see, water which is absorbed by the roots is being transported to various parts of the plant. Can you see the blue color arrows here? Okay, so stem is helping in transport of water from the roots to leaves, flowers, buds, etc. In the same way, whatever food is being synthesized in the leaves, you can see through the yellow arrow that the food from the leaves is getting transported to roots, leaves, to the young leaves, flowers, and buds again by stem. Okay. Here you can see a picture of tomato plant. See, this is the main stem. It is bearing the fruits, bearing the flowers, leaves, buds. So, stem is the structure which bears the leaves, flowers, and fruits, and it is the portion of the plant which is present above the ground. Hence, it is said to be a part of shoot system. Okay. Now, let's understand modifications of stem. That means, apart from its normal function of transporting food and water to various parts of the plant, In some plants, the stem gets modified to perform different functions. It's not that in every plant these modifications of stem is seen. No. Usual function normally in any plant, stem helps in transport of food and water to various parts of the plant, and it is the structure which bears fruits, flowers, and leaves. But try to understand, in some plants the stem gets modified to perform various kinds of functions. Okay, the first one is for storage of food. Okay, now, best example is potato tubers. Okay, these are potato tubers. We all eat potatoes, right? So basically, the potatoes that we eat, okay, they are modified stems. Okay, here we actually imagine stems as thin structures which grow basically above the soil, right? But here in these plants where the stem is modified for storing food, there the stem is underground stem. Okay, usually stem is present above the ground, right? But in these plants where the stem's main role is to store food, there the stem is present in the soil. Okay, it is underground stem. So here the underground stem is modified to store food. In potatoes it is called as tubers. Okay, and these tubers are what in shape? They are spherical in shape. And if you see, can you see some structures here on the potato tubers? They are buds. Okay, basically the stem has auxiliary buds, right? If you remember, I've shown it to you here. Auxiliary buds. Auxiliary, I'm sorry, auxiliary buds. So these are the buds. They are also known as eyes. They are also called eyes in potato. Okay, so basically, if you see stem, modifications of stem also like gets modified to store food, and under this modification here the stem is present inside the soil, so it's underground stem that gets modified to store food. Example is potato. One example is potato, where the edible part, which is potato, it is the stem part which gets modified and it is rich in food. And these potatoes, they are basically rich in a particular sugar known as starch. Okay, so potatoes are rich in a sugar known as starch. Okay, now these stems that store food in potatoes, they are called tubers. They bear auxiliary buds on them, which are also known as eyes. Okay, now here you can see one more modification of the stem in onion and garlic. Here the part that you see, okay, in onion, something like this. This is basically your condensed, flattened stem, okay, which is known as bulb. In potato, you call it as tuber, whereas in onion and garlic, you call it as bulb. Okay. Now, here, this bulb has a terminal bud. Here you can see this is the terminal bud that is present, and the terminal bud is surrounded by leaves. These are all leaves. Okay, and this entire structure is basically stem, the stem which is storing food in it. Usually we imagine stem as a thin structure that is growing vertically upwards, but in these plants the stem is very flat, very fat, because of accumulation of food that gets stored in it. And the stem is present underground in the soil. In plants usually stem is present above the soil, but here the stem is underground stem. Okay, and in potatoes this underground stem you call it as tubers. In onion and garlic it is called bulb. Okay, and these are the leaves, okay, which store food, fleshy leaves that store food. We'll talk about it later when we discuss about function of leaf and modifications of leaf. But just for now, try to understand that the edible part of onion that we eat, basically it is the underground stem part which stores food in it. Okay, and it has a terminal bud and it has scaly leaves around it. Okay, and this is lily plant. Even here these are bulbs, bulbs in lily plant. Can you see What is the structure? It is basically stem, and it is underground stem. And why is it very fat? Because of storage of food in it. Okay. Another example is, sorry, turmeric. Here you can see turmeric, and this is ginger. Okay. Here, and this is fern plant. In all these three, the stem is underground stem, okay, which is known as rhizome. And can you see? I told you stems have nodes and internodes. See, this is a node, and the gap between them is an internode. Okay. Here also you can see the nodes, and from the and we also know stem bears buds. These are the buds that are growing from the stem. Okay. And here the stem is present underground. That underground specialized stem which is storing food in it. Unlike normal stem, it is called as a rhizome in ginger, turmeric, and fern. Okay, so in all these plants, whether it is potatoes, onion, garlic, lily, ginger, turmeric, the stem is underground. It is present inside the soil, and its main function is to store food. Unlike to transport food or water and minerals, here the main function of this stem is to store food in it. Since it is storing food in it, the stem is quite swollen, okay, and therefore it appears either spherical or in these shapes, okay. In potatoes, the underground stem is called tuber. In onion, garlic, and lily, it is called bulb. In turmeric, ginger, and fern, we call it is referred to as rhizome. And if you observe turmeric or ginger, even in your house, you can see the nodes and internodes and even small buds arising from these nodes. Okay. Now, a simple experiment can be done in your house. What you can do is take a pot of soil. Now, please take potatoes with these buds. You actually get fine potatoes even without the auxiliary buds. But please take potatoes with these buds or eyes. Okay. Now, what you do is you cut this portion, a small portion with the bud. Sow it in the soil, pour water, wait for 3 to 4 months, and you can see a plant developing from the buds or the eyes. Okay, so basically, the buds give rise to the complete plant. This can be done even at home, where you can take a pot of soil, buy potatoes with buds on it, cut a small piece or portion of the potato with an eye, put it in the soil, sow it in the soil, pour water regularly, observe for 3 to 4 months. You can see plants developing, and maybe it can take an year or two for the potatoes to completely develop to a good size. Okay, but you can see that plant starts developing from the eye portion that you have sowed in the soil, that you have sown in the soil. Okay, so this experiment can be done at home. Okay. There is another experiment to prove that potatoes are rich in starch. I told you potatoes contain a specific sugar in them. Okay, that's starch. So to prove it, what is done? Take a test tube. Okay, cut potatoes into small pieces. Make pulp. Okay, and add this pulp to your test tube. Okay, now into the test tube add few drops of iodine solution. When iodine reacts with starch, we know that in potato you have a specific sugar known as starch. Starch reacts with iodine to give you blue black color. So this blue black color seen in the test tube indicates presence of starch in potatoes. Okay, so this experiment it can be done in your school lab to prove that potatoes are rich in the sugar starch. To prove it, what are we doing? Take a test tube, add pulp of potato and few drops of iodine solution, mix it properly, and you can see that the starch present in potato reacts with iodine to give blue black color. Okay. Now, second modification. So first modification is stems, they store food in them, and they are underground stems. They are referred by different names in different plants like tubers, bulbs, or rhizomes. The second modification of the stem is for preparation of food. Okay, in some plants like your desert plants like opuntia, okay, it is commonly known as prickly pear. Okay, opuntia. Here, now you can see a structure like this, right? You might think this is leaf. No, basically this is the modified stem. Here the stem is very thick and it is green in color. The stem itself performs photosynthesis. Okay, then you might say, ma'am, where are the leaves? Can you see this thorn or spine like structures? They are your leaves. The leaves are highly reduced. Usually, we imagine the leaves something like this. But in these plants, the leaves are highly reduced and they get modified into spines. But whatever structures that you see here, they are not your leaves, they are the stems. Here, the stem is thick, it's green in color, and it performs photosynthesis. This modified stem that you see in Opentia, it is known as phylloclade, or it is also known as cladode. Phylloclade or cladode is the modified stem that is seen in Opentia. Now, Opentia is a plant that grows in deserts, that means in dry conditions. Under dry conditions, we know that water availability is very less to the plant. So that's the reason these stems they store water and they are quite thick. Why are the stems very thick? Because they store large amount of water in them. Okay, and they perform photosynthesis and hence they do have the pigment chlorophyll in them. That's the reason these stems appear green in color and they perform photosynthesis, and these stems are called as phylloclades or cladodes. Okay, and why are the leaves reduced into spines? To prevent any water loss. Okay, because these plants are actually growing in deserts, dry conditions where water availability is very less. So, if there is excess water loss, then the plant will die. So, that's the reason leaves are modified into spines. Okay, and the stem in turn is performing the function of the leaves, that is, it is performing photosynthesis, store and hence the due to the presence of chlorophyll in the stem, therefore the stem appears green in color. So don't think it's the leaf, these are basically your stems, okay, which store water in them. They perform photosynthesis, they're thick, quite thick, and they're called as phylloclades or cladodes. Okay, so that's the modification seen. And one more thing that I forgot to explain, when you study about rhizome, here the stem is growing horizontally in the soil. Usually we know that in a plant stem grows vertically above the soil, but here the stem is underground. It's growing horizontally. Okay, and here the stem has nodes and internodes. Right. Okay. Next, third thing is for support. Okay. Uh, Here you can see grapevine. This is passion flower. And this is gourd. Okay. The stem of grapevine, gourd, and passion flower. In all these three plants, the stems are quite weak, thin. Okay. So can they provide mechanical support to the plant? No. That's the reason in these plants, auxiliary buds that are present, auxiliary buds which later develop into side branches, right, they get modified into special structures known as tendrils. Can you see this coiled structures right here also? Coiled structures, can you see? These are tendrils. Okay, what is the function of these tendrils? Now, in these plants, in grapevine, gourd, and passion flower, the main stem is very weak. So that's the reason the lateral branches that develop, they modify into tendrils. Now these tendrils, what do? They take support of the neighboring plants. Okay, and they intertwine. Like for example, let's assume this is your grapevine plant. Okay, where the stem is very thin and lateral branches got modified into tendrils. Now let's assume beside grapevine you have mango tree. So these tendrils, they start coiling or intertwining around the mango branches. So they take support of the mango tree, and the grapevine starts. It takes support from the mango tree and starts multiplying and developing its fruits. Is it clear? So tendrils are modifications of the auxiliary buds that develop from the stem, and they provide support to the plant. Okay, helping it to climb. Now, stems also play an important role in defense. Now, here you can see this is bougainvillea plant, and this is citrus. Can you see this is your main stem, right? Can you see there are pointed structures which are called as thorns? What are basically thorns? Again, they are modifications of auxiliary buds. Okay, what is an auxiliary bud? Bud which is present. Auxiliary bud is also known as lateral bud. It is present at the sides of a plant, right? Or I can say, let's assume this is your stem. Okay, here you have leaf. What is this position called? Node, right? Angle formed. Can you say angle formed between the leaf and the stem? It is known as axil. Okay. The bud arising from the axil, it is known as auxiliary bud. Is it clear? Again, I'm explaining. You have a stem in a plant. This is the root system. You have leaf here. You have one more leaf here. This portion, this is called node. Okay, we all know that the angle formed by the node or the leaf and the stem, that is called axil. Now here, if any bud develops between the leaf and the stem in the axil, that is called axillary bud. Okay. Now, in these plants, in bougainvillea and citrus, this auxiliary bud, actually, normally auxiliary bud gives rise to branches. But here, auxiliary bud develops into short pointed structure known as thorn. Okay, why? In order to prevent the plant from grazing by herbivores. Okay, and even to prevent water loss. So excess water loss. So basically, in these plants, in bougainvillea and citrus, the thorns are modifications of auxiliary buds. What are auxiliary buds? If you see any main, this is your root, this is the stem. If this is the leaf, angle formed between the leaf and the stem, it is known as axil. Okay, that portion is called axil. Now a bud which is developing from the axil, it is known as auxiliary bud. Okay, now modification of the auxiliary bud into pointed woody structure is only thorn. And why these thorns develop? To protect the plants from grazing by herbivores and even to prevent water loss. For climbing, in some members, like you can see here, morning glory. Both these pictures are of morning glory. In these, what actually happens is the main stem itself twines around the support. Unlike in tendrils are modifications of auxiliary bud. Okay, but here what actually happens is the main stem in the plant itself takes support of the other plants. It starts twining. Okay, so here you can see twiners, presence of twiners, where the main stem is coiled around other plants to take support. Okay, because in these plants the stem is very thin, weak, so the stems twine around their own stem, okay, for easy climbing. So the modification that you see are twiners. Subaerial modification. Okay, now the modifications that you have seen for storage of food, they're underground modifications. Now let's understand subaerial modification. What is subaerial modification? Why is it named as subaerial modification? That's because we know that usually in a plant, stem is present above the ground, root is present deep into the soil. But here in subaerial modifications, that means in runner, stolen, and offset, we find that the stem is now, for example, if this is soil, okay, you have soil, the stem is present in close contact to the soil and it is present above the soil. It's not present in the soil. If it is present in the soil, we call it as underground stem. If it is present above the ground, then it is normally stem. But here, the stem grows horizontally and it is very close to the soil, but it is present above the surface of the soil. Therefore, it is called as subaerial. Okay, you have the soil surface. If the stem grows vertically upwards, it's a normal stem. If it is present inside the soil, then it is called underground stem. But here the stem is present above the surface of soil and it grows horizontally. Therefore, it is called subaerial. Okay, it's in contact with air and also in contact with soil. Therefore, subaerial modification. Now, first let's understand runner. Okay, let me first erase this off. Okay, let's understand runners. These runners are usually found in grasses. Okay, the grass that you find here is called doob grass. Okay, this is doob grass and this is wood sorrel plant. Okay, now here what actually happens is, can you see the stem is growing horizontally and near the node there is plant that is developing. Okay, so if this is the soil, you can see the stem growing horizontally. The stem is divided into nodes and internodes. These are internodes. This is the node. And near the node region, again, roots start developing, a new plant develops. Roots start developing, a new plant develops. That is runner. Okay. So here the stem is horizontally growing on the surface of the soil, not inside the soil. It is in contact with air and it is in contact with soil, hence it is called subaerial modification. Okay. And this branch that develops is called as runner and it is soft. Okay, it's a horizontal stem that produces new plants at multiple nodes. Okay, can you see here? Okay, it's seen in wood sorrel, it's seen in doob grass. Doob grass plant. Okay, where if this is the soil, okay, a stem grows horizontally on the surface of the soil. It is divided into nodes, and at each region of the node, again, roots develop and new plant starts arising. Okay, so this stem that you see, it is called runner. It's a slender stem. Next is stolen. Stolen is seen in strawberries and mint, pudina. Okay, how is it different from a runner? If you see, this is your soil. Okay, here also the stem grows horizontally, but what happens is, let's assume this is the node region. Okay, again, sorry, you have the node region from which roots develop and plant starts arising. Now again, here the stem grows like this. Okay, it touches the soil, roots develop, plant develops. Again, the stem hops, it touches the soil, roots develop, and new plant starts developing. Can you see here? This is a strawberry plant, plant 1, where the stem subaerially it moves and again touches ground. And the point where it touches, you can see one more plant developing. And from here again, there is a stem that touches the ground and new plant starts developing. This is plant 2, plant 3, right? The same case in mint as well. Okay. So that is a stolen. So it grows slightly above the ground. Runner, it grows horizontally and it is in touch. It is in close contact with the surface of soil. Whereas if we talk about stolen, what actually is happening? If this is the surface of the soil, if this is soil surface, if the stem starts like this, there are roots and a plant that develops, the stem slightly grows upwards, again comes back and touches the ground. The point where it touches, a new plant starts developing. Again, it grows upwards, slightly upwards, again touches the soil. So that is a stolon. Okay, and best examples are strawberry and mint. The third one is offset. Offsets usually are seen in aquatic plants. Here you have water lily, which is also known as pistia, and this is water hyacinth, okay, or icornia. Both these pictures are of water hyacinth or icornia. Here, can you see this is one plant, plant one, and this is another plant, plant two. Can you see a stem? Here also, can you see, right? It's same like runner, but the difference between runner and offset is offset, the stem is very thick and it is short. If you see, and it's growing in water. Now consider this is water body, okay? You have water here. Here the stem is very thick and it runs only for shorter distance. It runs for some time, then touches the soil, new plant develops, again runs for short time, touches the soil, new plant develops. Okay. Whereas runners, what are runners? They grow in the soil. If this is the soil surface, they grow. We have nodes, internodes. At the nodes, there will be roots developing new plants. In runners, stem is very thin and it runs for longer distances. Whereas in offset, the stem is very thick and it runs for short distance. What about stolen? Stolen, there is a slight jump, that means upward. The stem grows slightly upwards. Whereas in stolen and sucker, it's horizontally growing. Okay. So these are certain modifications that are seen in stem, where usually normally the shoot system comprises of stems, leaves, flowers, fruits, and buds. Today we discussed in detail about the stem, where in any plant, whether it is a herb, shrub, tree, a climber, or a creeper, major function of a stem is transport of water, food, and minerals, and also it bears fruits, flowers. But apart from that, a stem also has buds on it, where these buds are of three types. The buds which are present at the terminal end of the stem, they are called terminal buds or apical buds. The buds which arise from the sides, they are called as lateral buds or auxillary buds, and there are flowering buds. Flowering buds give rise to flowers. The auxiliary buds, they give rise to branches or lateral branches in a plant. So, apart from the normal function in a stem also exhibits secondary functions or modifications. In some plants, unlike normally where a stem grows above the soil, in certain plants the stem grows underground and it stores food. Examples include potato, where you find tubers, onion and garlic, or lily, where bulbs are seen, and rhizome specifically seen in ginger, turmeric, and fern. Okay, and here clearly you can see nodes, internodes, and presence of auxiliary buds in turmeric, ginger, and even in the rhizome of fern. And presence of terminal buds can also be seen even in the bulbs of garlic, and auxiliary buds presence can be seen in potatoes, which we call them as eye. A simple experiment can be done to show how from the auxiliary bud a new plant can be developed. And these potatoes, the tubers, are rich in starch. To prove that, we have seen how upon addition of iodine to starch, there will be blue black colors seen. Okay, and the second modification is stems help in preparation of food. Till your fifth class, you might have studied that leaves are the organs in a plant that basically perform photosynthesis. But if you observe desert plants, in desert plants, the leaves are highly reduced. Okay, so the stem in these plants performs photosynthesis as it has chlorophyll pigment in it, and these stems are quite thick because of the storage of water in them and preparation of food in it. And these stems that are modified to perform food in these plants like cactus or panacea, they're called as phylloclades or cladodes. Okay. And for support, in some plants, the auxiliary buds get developed into tendrils. Tendrils take support of other plants for helping the plant to climb. Okay. And for defense, in some plants, the auxiliary buds get developed instead of producing branches, lateral branches, or side branches in a plant. The auxiliary buds, they give rise to pointed hard structures which are called as thorns. These protect the plant from herbivory or from grazing by other herbivores. For climbing, that is twiners which are seen in morning glory plants. And then we have seen subaerial modifications where the stem is not completely present inside the soil or it is not completely present above the soil. It is present near to the surface of the soil where it touches the soil and also present above the surface of soil. Hence, it is said to be subaerial. Examples are runners, stolons, and suckers. Where runners they grow horizontally, they run over long distances, and at every node a new plant arises. Stolons, they grow slightly upwards the soil, and as soon as they touch the ground, a new plant develops from that region. And offsets, these are stems which are thick and they run over short distances. Okay, so these are the modifications of STEM. Any doubts, please let me know in the comment section. If you like my content, please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Biology Foundation. Okay, enjoy the process of learning. Bye bye. Have a good day.